I'm Leslie Seidle. I'm associated with the Forum of Federations, and the project that I've been leading with Christian Jobke from the University of Bern is a 7-country study of immigrant integration in federal systems. And the 7 countries are Canada, the US, and Australia, which are often referred to as settler societies or settler countries that were largely formed by immigration in the last 200 years or so, a little bit longer for Canada. And 4 European countries, Germany, Spain, Belgium, and Switzerland. And within the 7, we have 4 that are multi-nation states, states where more than one language is spoken, Canada, Spain, Belgium, and Switzerland. And we take immigrant integration as a continuing process that has a number of aspects or phases to it. We include the selection or the admission of immigrants, because that can have an impact on the integration trajectories, as it's often called, of immigrants. There's a very significant area that might be seen as towards the middle of the continuum, which is economic, social, and civic integration of immigrants, and what might be seen as the end point, but we don't consider it the end point, naturalization, becoming a citizen of the new country. I say we don't consider that an end point because immigrant integration is not something that, it's not like painting a room. At a certain point you can declare that you're done, and it's quite clear, and nobody would argue with you, the room has been fully painted. But in the case of immigrant integration, it's more subjective, and particularly in countries that have very short periods for naturalization. Canada's is 4 years, Belgium is 3 years. In many cases, people are still learning the language, they're still learning about the society. They may have had to do some additional education or training in order to work in their field because of the requirements of their new country. So it's an ongoing process. We also conceive it as a process that it's often referred to as a two-way street, that integration also depends upon the receiving society, the person's new country, allowing opportunities, offering openings, and doing this in concrete ways. Take, for example, in the case of Canada, we have an elaborate network of what are called settlement services for recent arrivals. And this is not only language training, but also training about the job market, mentoring, trying to teach people about life in Canada, about Canadian society and Canadian values. And so these are concrete ways in which government offers services to people who've recently arrived. If we turn to some of the main findings from the project, we find, perhaps not surprisingly, that in the multi-nation states, the countries with more than one linguistic minority, there tends to be more decentralization of immigrant integration policies. In the case of Canada and Australia, our provinces, the Australian states, are actually involved in the selection of immigrants. In Canada's case, this has been going on for some 30 years with Quebec, and over the last 10 or 12 years, all the other provinces have begun to participate in what's called provincial nomination program. And this has become quite significant. In Australia, the role of the states is not as significant, but nevertheless, there is state involvement in some of the selection of some of the immigrants. The other federations don't have any subnational involvement there. Looking at naturalization, you might say, or people might think, well, surely this one must be strictly federal in all your countries. Well, we have one exception there, which is Switzerland. I think it comes partly from the fact that Switzerland is a confederation. The cantons formed a union in the mid-19th century, And I imagine in the earlier days they had the right to set their own rules about who was a resident of the canton, who qualified, and so on. So in Switzerland, the cantons play a role, as do the local governments, the communes, in taking decisions on naturalization. And in many of the cantons, the green or red light is actually at the commune or the cantonal level. In the area of economic and social integration, there tends to be a lot of joint activity with the federal governments and the subnational governments involved. The subnational governments play important roles not only in giving programs that are explicitly oriented towards immigrant integration, but also in providing services and programs that are more general in nature but that have an important impact. Like, for example, the education system. Everybody agrees that the education system plays an important role in helping the children of immigrants, whether they were born outside the country or in the country, adapt to the broader society. So it's another example of the multi-governance that is the theme of the conference that I've been speaking at. And one of the things that we want to do with the project in the future is to take a look to include more the role of cities, which is very important, particularly in Europe, where cities are more involved in social policy and education and so on than they are in Canada and the other settler federations, Australia and the